Let's go. Start it off. I can edit all this shit out.
Hello, welcome to just two ordinary guys. Two ordinary guys just have ordinary questions about life events.
Mhm.
I'm Bano.
And I'm Doc, and we're here to talk to you about the Karen Reed case. This is not scripted. We're just two dorks from California. It seems like 2 to 3% of the population in California has heard about this case. So we talk about it every morning. We watch it all day, and we drive to work, and we talk for hours about this case.
And in fact, Doc is the one that got me involved in this case. And I can honestly say that I've lost sleep over this just because of the rabbit hole continues to get deeper and deeper, and there is no end to it.
It's a Canton abyss.
It
That's what we're calling it.
I,
The
you know,
Canton
I
abyss.
like that. I can't abyss
The
exactly.
fucking
So what we're going to do here is what we're going to do is again we're going to look at this from how the jurors are going to be looking at this once the case is delivered to them.
as if we've sat on the jury. We've watched almost every minute of the entire case. We're going to pretend like we're jurors and we're going to give you our quick 2 cent opinion because, I mean, trials ended this week, right?
Exactly. It's supposed to be good from what we understand. It looks like it's going to be given to the jurors on Friday.
The 13th,
Oh my God, I didn't even.
right?
Again, there goes the rabbit hole. Someone give me the shovel because it's continuing to go deeper and deeper.
Now, we have our opinions on what happened. We will get to those at the end. But behind us, we've mapped out every witness that has testified in this case since, I'm gonna have to put on my glasses for this, since 422. Since this started, first witness for the prosecution was Timothy Nuttall. And we're going to go through each one of these witnesses and give you our opinion. You ready?
I'm totally ready.
Okay, so what was your opinion of Mr. Timothy?
Well, he comes across at first as being someone who looks like to me as a caring individual. But when they dig deeper from the defense side of it, he is someone who looks to me as being a first responder, as I would like to qualify it as not professional.
Okay.
He's not professional at all. I think he looks like his testimony is scripted. He's been given information that he is trying to get out, and you can tell he feels completely uncomfortable when it gets crossed when the defense goes after him.
Yeah. So what I didn't like is his between trial number one and trial number two, his adamant, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, because that wasn't there in trial number one. So I think on my vote, I don't think his testimony helps out the prosecution at all. My vote is that I think he helped the defense.
I would agree with that, especially because after the cross, because they get things out of him that was not brought up from the prosecution side. In the standpoint of, I think the prosecution doesn't ask him certain questions because they know of the answers that he gave for the defense.
Okay, so witness number two, we move on to Carrie Roberts, friend of John O'Keefe, possible high school sweetheart of John O'Keefe, correct? They went to one of the proms together. What's your opinion on her?
I think that she is, in my opinion, she is a scorn woman. You can see that later when she really wants to be Jennifer McCabe's like go-to friend.
Yeah.
And she gets rattled. She gets completely rattled when the questions start attacking her. And you can tell it by her body language. You can tell it by her responses that she's uncomfortable. And quite frankly, she doesn't really even know what's going on.
So my 2 cents with Miss Carrie, we all have that friend that's an easy pushover, right? That's my 2 cents with her, right? That I don't think, I mean, go back to the early videos of them getting out. I mean, Karen runs out, she's going crazy. And you see Jen and Karen, it's almost like, I don't know, something's weird the way that whole deal went down to where both Jen and Carrie, I think they're dealing with Karen, and I don't know if they're really concerned with John. I mean, she was, I don't know, there's something weird, and I'm not saying she's in on it. I think she's an innocent bystander's whole deal, but I think she's now in too deep with the Jen McCabe connection where she's in over her head.
Well, that's what I was saying is I think that she refers to that, oh my God, this is what Jennifer or Jen,
Here's our timeline.
here's our timeline on what happened here. And so she's kind of agreeing with her. And I think that one of the reasons why is she wants to, in this sense, be part of Jen's
world
group and
Okay,
world, like
I'll
you
buy
said.
that. Okay. Witness number 3, we moved up. So where would you put your vote on Carrie? Do you think her testimony
No,
helps?
I think she came across as someone who looked like she could not answer a straight question.
Okay.
I would say the defense would get a check mark.
So I'm torn on that one. I'm almost, I think part of her testimony did help the prosecution, but I'm not willing to give a full point towards either side. I'm going to half my vote. If I'm tallying these up, I'm going to give half of the prosecution, half of the defense. There is an innocent side of Carrie that I kind of respect, but then there's that Jen McCabe half I don't like.
Well, I agree with you on the innocent side, except for if you watch when she is getting crossed, she gets very, very defensive
Yeah.
at the end. And that is kind of a tell of, hey, leave me alone. I had nothing really to do with this, but she knows what's going on. And so she gets a little defensive there.
So let's move on to Peggy. We'll be quick with Peggy, like the defense was, which I really respected that they, Peggy, I mean, yes, she's a positive witness for the prosecution. I don't think that she did the real case any good, right? As far as
No, I think she was brought in just because she's a grieving mother, which obviously she should be.
Yep.
John's her son.
Yep.
And I agree with you. The defense, I thought, did a great job of kid gloves. We are not going to, this is a mother who is obviously stressed and feeling grief. And so they just kind of let that story come out. And again, I don't think it was a huge win for the prosecution, but then again, I understand why the prosecution brought her in. I really do.
But I think I think she as a witness was a good, because she wasn't called trial 1.
Correct.
Right. So I think that's a slight win for the prosecution on that one. Slight. And now we're going to get into Massachusetts State Police Officer Nicholas Guarino. I'm not a fan of him. Something about his testimony on 3 or 4 different days. It was hard to follow. I have notes. I'm not wasn't believing him.
Well, and he was also, let's be honest, at times he comes across as arrogant, a little snarky.
Yep.
And like you said, his answers were kind of all over the map. So I think he was a little bit hard to follow. In fact, if I was a juror, I'd be like, okay, where are you taking me?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you think you're here and you're over here. So I'm not, again, I don't think he was huge for the prosecution. I think they're just bringing him in because he's part of the police investigation, which we'll get into later on. Oh my God, how they screwed this whole thing up. But again, I agree with you on that. I just didn't find him very, I don't know. He was kind of all over the place.
All right. So I'm a toss on that one. I don't think he really helps either side that much. What I can't understand is why he gets called, but yet you're not calling Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, Chris Albert, like in the kids, right? I mean, it has to be some type of strategy. And I'm just not understanding why he's getting called to help their case, because I don't think he did that much for the prosecution.
Well, I think you brought up a good point there. And I think the other thing is that I think the other reason why those other witnesses aren't called up is I think Brennan is trying to do what he can to keep the flames
down.
Okay.
Right.
So I think he's trying to keep those flames down.
Okay. Daniel Whitley.
I don't really have a whole lot.
I got to tell you, I mean, that's on 4/23. Today's 6/11. I barely remember him.
Exactly.
Right. If I'm a juror, like, okay, I can visualize him, but if I'm going back almost 2 month and a half, if I'm not taking notes, I barely remember he's a paramedic.
I thought the only thing he said too was he said he heard, I hit him. Again, I could be wrong with that, but that's the one thing I just remember about this guy. But I agree with you. If I'm a juror, the only thing that is going to remind me of him is that when Jackson does his closing, if he brings it in and ties it in and kind of refreshes my memory on that. So again, I'm not really, he's someone that I don't really remember.
Okay, for reasons of time, we're going to lump the next couple witnesses, Gene DeMilis, the GM of McCartney's, and Bridget Meehan, the owner of the waterfall. We're going to lump those together. I don't see how those two witnesses do anything for the prosecution whatsoever besides get some video from both of the events in the case.
I would say that the only thing for me is that Brigio, the owner, he got free advertisement.
No, that's a good call.
That's what he
All
got
right.
out of this was free advertisement.
We'll drink to that.
Where people were going to come in and say, "Oh my God, is this where it all started for this case?"
Yep.
It started at the waterfall. So that's the only thing that I would say about that from the witness standpoint.
Witness number 3 of the day was John O'Keefe's friend, Mike Camerano. So I really liked him. I thought he was a good guy. I thought he spoke from the heart. I thought he was a good person. I really don't know if he helped the prosecution case, but I liked him as a person.
I agree with you, but again, and thank God that I'm not a juror here, because obviously every day when Auntie Bev says, please don't go back, don't do any research, don't do any of this, that I saw if you want to call it a little documentary on him, and he strongly believes that Karen did this. Okay. And again, he might do that because he is good friends with John and he feels grief about that. But again, I don't think he's not being, he's being biased in my opinion there. Again, though, I don't think he's a big win for the prosecution there.
Yeah, I think you're right. Okay. Next witness, Ian Whiffen, Celebrite expert. What's your take on him?
I'll be honest with you, and I really don't remember him.
It's a month and a half ago. You've been in court 8 hours a day.
Well, and I'm drinking every
night,
so
you're not allowed to be on your phone all weekend.
Exactly. And so that's why I think a little bit sometimes this can get a little bit run out. And I think sometimes the lawyers tend to forget that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So what I thought of Ian, I liked the tech presentation. I thought he did a really good job, but I just disagreed how he rewrote programs to make it fit the model the prosecution was looking for.
Well, I mean, I remember his testimony about that, especially when they got down to the 222 and then down to the 612. That's where, I'll be honest, if I'm a juror and I keep hearing this over and over, I was confused. I got really confused on how that data was coming across.
I'm going to give you, so my wife works for the Department of Justice here in California. And in her lab there, I won't mention his name, but he is the Celebrite expert in California. And I called him and I wanted to know certain things like how extracting cell phone data works. And one thing he said, it gives you a grid, how far, you have your signal, the triangle of signal, and it gives you an area of 85 feet that signal is coming from. There's a large variance as far as where exactly that's coming from. But what he did say, as far as the elevation goes, that's almost within a foot. So that's what I wished the defense would have concentrated on, because according to all of them, you see John's phone go down a flight of stairs,
Correct.
Up a flight of stairs, and then down, and there's nowhere on the front lawn that you have those elevation changes. It's a big wide angle where it possibly could have, came in from as far as where his phone is. And that's a wide guess. But the elevation, he said, is within a foot.
Well, and see, that's where I think that which sucks by watching this trial, and you and I have talked about this, is that obviously they have pre-trial instructions, right, and then they have sidebars, which we have no idea what's being talked about at the sidebar. Maybe the defense tried to get that in more about, like you said, the pinpoints of that. And that is something that was not allowed. And oh, by the way, if you're a juror now you're even more confused because it's like part of the puzzle and you're not allowed to find out what that missing piece is.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
okay, get out one of those for our next witness. We're gonna have to do something with this witness. So our next witness is Miss Jennifer McCabe. And I don't know about all y'all, but there's not too many. Maybe it stems from trial number 1, but I had a hard time liking this witness. And I think it may stem from trial number one. I know she's more polished in trial number two.
Well, that's called coaching.
I know that she answered her question, but if I had to hear one more, when Alan Jackson approached her at the witness stand, thank you, thank you, thank you. I just wanted to tell her to go, fuck off.
Again, I used the word earlier on when we were talking about Carrie. This woman is completely scorned and has, for whatever reason, wants to be, I think, in complete control of what's going on.
Yeah.
And she, in my opinion, also wants to feel like she is orchestrating things, and that if you're questioning her at all, she gets bent out of shape. In fact, you can see it on her face at times, even to the point where she says, "Oh my God, we're being harassed." Listen, you're in a court of law, and there's two sides to every story. Your side is asking you questions, which is going to favor your side. You have to understand that the other side is going to try to discredit on what you're saying.
Yeah.
She does not do a good job on that. I find it very weird that her own husband had to tell her to call back the FBI because she lied.
Yeah,
that to me, I think was a bunch of shit.
Yeah,
I think she said that because it was a way for her to get out of that from being, perjuring herself. This was a problem. And this lady herself is flat out lying.
Yeah, I think she's a diabolical liar. I just don't know if the jury picks up the same things that I did, that you did, or other people that I've known that have watched this. Like, that's the
well, and again,
they see the same things we do.
And there's other things about it when they talk about how they drive up to the scene and they say they see John and Carrie's going to go help John out. And she's talking to 911 and she says, "I think he's dead."
Yeah.
Okay. Are you a medical professional? How do you know that you think he's dead?
Yeah.
Is it just something you say? I don't think people would say that. That's not something that if I saw a dead body out there, it's like, okay, if I think he's going to be dead, I need to go see if
there's so many red flags
yes.
with Jennifer McCabe.
Yes.
We'll get into our theories later about her.
Yeah.
Because let's keep this witness list quick.
No, I definitely would say that she did not help.
No, not at all.
The prosecution at all.
I think now she did a better job this time than trial number one.
Yes.
And I still don't think, as much as she was on the stand for 2 days.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I still don't think that she helped the prosecution at all. I think she helped the defense.
I think so. Especially, yeah, most definitely. Especially when they got into the point of, hey, so you had to call back the two agents, because they can't use the word FBI. Thank you. That I misspoke about that. Well, that's a real red flag right there. That's a serious red flag.
Yeah.
And you're saying the only reason why you did it is because your husband told you? I don't buy that for a second.
Both our votes go for the defense for Miss McCabe. I don't think she helped the prosecution at all. Not a fan. Then we go to Miss Hannah Knowles. She's the forensic lab. We can get really quick in these next ones because let's get to the defense witnesses as quick as we can.
Yes.
My vote for her is I think she helped the defense.
I would agree because she was basically just giving her medical experience.
The next two witnesses, they're going to talk about Karen's blood alcohol content. Miss Julia had her at almost a deathly level. I'm not buying into that. Everybody in the bar, she drives home. There's no evidence of anything that she's at a 0.29 as they leave the waterfall. I'm not buying the whole deal. I'm not getting into the medical part of either some of her Crohn's or none of that. Like, I don't think they helped the prosecution at all. That's just my 2 cents.
I would agree with that.
Let's put Miss Jessica Hyde in that same conversation. Let's get on to Yuri. He was on the stand for days in over a weekend, right? What's your 2 cents on Yuri?
Yuri is definitely part of the screw up of how this investigation was completely run.
Yep.
Okay. He is Proctor's boss. Okay. So he comes across his answers. If you are completely, you know exactly what happens, and I ask you that question, you are going to snap at answering me back. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You're not even going to think about it. He had to think about every single answer that was asked about him, about Michael Proctor.
Yeah.
And a great way to notice when somebody is doing this is that when somebody asks you a question and he says, "Can you repeat that? Can you
Yeah.
repeat that for me?"
My
That
favorite
is,
part about him, if what I really remember about those 3 days is him saying, well, English is a third language for me. And Jackson, you need me to get a dictionary? You just used the word 5 minutes ago.
yeah,
Right. So little things like that,
yeah,
I think you could have had a witness that really helped the prosecution.
most definitely.
Now it's not. I mean, little things like that and the way he answered his question hurt the prosecution.
Well, and I think in this case, and again, even though he's not on the board because he was in the first trial, but not this one, is on Proctor, is people have said, Brennan, Yuri, come clean, admit it, and then just say, we got rid of him. We fired him.
Yeah.
In the story, but they didn't do that. In fact, Yuri at times was defending what Proctor was doing.
Yeah.
And that makes no sense.
Since we're on the topic of Yuri, we do have all the witnesses listed behind us, and we will invert the video so you can read it. But we're going to ask the Canton Police Department for the software on how to invert a video, because I do make videos in another project I'm working on, and inverting the video and then putting the timestamp at the bottom. No one on that police force can do. That's a graphic artist person.
Should I dress up like Brian Higgins when you're going to do that so that I can walk in the house and then that way?
And we're not even at Kelly Devers yet. Yeah, this inverting a video, flipping 30 minutes of video and then rendering it and then putting a timestamp at the bottom that doesn't match the other camera. That is a video graphics department. That's not something someone in law enforcement could do. That's a lot of rendering. I have high-speed computers for video, and I guarantee you none of the PCs at the police department can render this type of video. That was done outside the police force,
most definitely,
by a graphic department.
Most definitely.
No camera in the world is flipped like that. I'm calling bullshit on that whole deal.
Well,
and that's why I think when Devers saw Higgins, and I'm drawing a blank on the
well, it's Proctor. I thought
no,
Proctor was.
They were there later. It's the two people that Devers saw it, Higgins and Higgins' boss, where she saw them for a wildly long time. I think those two were there. They were the ones disrupting the cameras.
Oh, exactly.
Because Proctor and Yuri, they don't have the knowledge, they don't have the seniority.
Oh no, I don't think Proctor was. I don't think he did. I don't think he was the one.
They're breaking the tail end, but we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
We're getting ahead of ourselves.
Okay. All right.
Yuri's done. Your vote for Yuri.
Oh, he's
defense or prosecution.
He's definitely helped the defense.
He helped the defense.
He totally helped.
2-0, no vote on that one. Now let's get to Dr. Wolf, the kind neurosurgeon who brought his wife coffee every morning. And as soon as he left the courtroom, he's going to do 16 brain surgeries later that day. He's a busy guy, in case you wanted to know. I kind of liked him, though. Well, his personality was, yes. As a juror, you would not hate him. No.
Because he did have some color to him. And so that, at least, if anything, some of the stuff that he said, if it was something that could help the defense, wasn't as damaging as it could have been.
Yeah.
Okay. So I do agree with you on that.
I think he was a good witness for the prosecution, not that good for the defense. So I would actually give my check mark for Dr. Wolf's testimony to the prosecution. You?
I'll agree with that.
Okay.
I'll agree with that.
Okay, now let's get to our favorite doctor of the entire trial.
Okay, before you do that, do you mind am I allowed to even do this on YouTube? I guess I am. I'm going to do that because I'm going to need this for Burgess, because let me tell you right now, my ears are already on fire. Okay, fire.
Okay, so our Dr. Shannon Burgess, who only has a high school degree, somehow got his doctorate in 2000 and whatever it was, 4, 5, 6, 7 with his high school degree. That one was jaw-dropping when they noted he never attended the University of Alabama
Yep.
with a BS in science and engineering.
And mathematics.
And
And
that
oh, by the way, did I tell you that I have a degree in mathematics and in engineering and physics?
from the University of Alabama?
No, from the university, just the USA University.
Oh.
And I started in 1982, and I'm still working on getting my degree. So I just want people to understand that I'm still working on getting that
You and
degree.
Dr. Shannon have your doctorate degrees coming to you. They're coming.
I will tell you,
The degree is half written out.
I will tell you right now with this witness, the thing that bugs me the most about this witness is how did the judge allow this to come in as an expert witness?
How do you have him as an expert witness, yet Dr. Elizabeth Laposada can't talk about dog bites?
Yes.
What a shit show.
That is, I just don't understand that. And oh, by the way, since Doc and I, when we talk every morning, the key for the defense is you have to create reason of doubt. That's the case. If you can create that,
Done.
You have to say that this person is innocent. And he and I have talked. In fact, he's probably sick of me saying to him every morning, there is reason to doubt right there just because of the man's degree.
Yep.
He claims he's an expert in mathematics from the University of Alabama, and he does not even have a degree there. Oh, by the way, Alabama doesn't even offer that as a degree there. Yep. So how is this not even reason of doubt? That's something that I don't understand, and we'll get into the judge later into this podcast.
That did nothing but help the defense. I think that was a huge problem. And I mean, think prosecution, you got to be shitting in your pants.
Well, and
when
again,
they're like, you don't have a degree. Well, are you shitting me?
Well, and my other thing is that, and I don't know because I'm not a lawyer, is that I don't understand how that doesn't even come down as perjury because you are putting false information on your resume, which is out there. And as the defense pointed out, is that if you hit his link, anybody can see what he says is his credentials.
I don't even want to talk about him anymore. He's just a waste of time. The whole just waste. Let's get on to my favorite character of the witness and the prosecution team, Dr. Judson Welcher. So I'm going to give you my 2 cents. I couldn't stand him. By the third or fourth day he's on there, I didn't like the way he answered questions. I didn't like his attitude. He seemed like this all-knowing, all-being, superhuman being. I didn't like him. And I hope the jurors find this. I didn't like him. He's your last witness. He's your end-all be-all to wrap up your case.
Right.
And he's unlikable.
Well, besides even being unlikable, his testing was, I hate to say this, I'm about to have a 1-year-old granddaughter, and she could come up with better testing than what he did. Blue paint on your elbow, and him, not the car hitting him, him walking into the automobile and showing his body going forward, which if a moving vehicle is coming at you, you would be going away from the car. And his explanation on the blue paint, which I hope to God that if this ever does go to a retrial, maybe the next testing he'll go to yellow or go to a red and all that. But I agree with you. He was very, very
unlikable. He was unlikable.
He was just his answers were never clear and concise. And when he did get questioned, he always looked like this, like he was confused and I don't understand because I'm the one that did the testing. I'll tell you right now, in my opinion, if I was a juror here, I am definitely saying you did not at all help the prosecution here. You did zero to help.
Well, I'll give you this over Trooper Paul, right? At least he came up with something like the arm could have been here. So at least the defense, the prosecution upped their level of shit show. So at least they had a method of possible injury. Even though there's no way that that's possible, at least they came up with a quote possible method of injury versus Trooper Paul.
I would have loved
Trooper Paul was great. I was hoping they'd at least have some video of Trooper Paul.
I will tell you now. I wish Trooper Paul could have came back, because then we could have seen. Oh my God, there is some improvement, and it's like you could. I mean, I will tell you right now. I did feel sorry for Trooper Paul because he was so nervous. He didn't know his own field. I mean, I would love to be a fly in the wall if Trooper Paul ever went out on a date, because he would just fold. He has no confidence in himself. So what?
Yeah, but
Zero.
Here's the. I want to rip on Trooper Paul that bad. He's probably a very nice individual. But he got stuck in a situation he should have never been in. You can tell he's probably a nice guy, and he's brought into this world as a accident reconstructionist, and he's a cop. He's got very minimal training. It's like, I need you to do this. You're like, I can't remember what force equals mass times acceleration. What does that mean?
I can understand that, but when he was on the stand, you could tell that he was not at times answering 100% truthfully. And here's the thing: you can be uncomfortable, but you can still answer truthfully. That's the thing that I think aggravates you and I the most.
Yep.
People here are not answering truthfully. They're covering for somebody else who's covering for somebody else.
This is the way you, as a possible juror. Did you do this? Yes. That's all you got to say.
Exactly.
I don't need anything more.
Don't elaborate.
Did you do this? Yes. Did this happen? No.
Yeah, exactly.
All I want.
Exactly.
And some of the witnesses that got, especially on the prosecution side, it got old quick.
Well, and the more that you talk, it's much like when you're in sales. If I sell you something and you say yes, I need to shut up. Yeah. I don't want to give you a reason to change your opinion and say no.
Okay.
These guys have a way of trying to elaborate and going on. And the more that you talk, the deeper you get. And that's when you get in trouble. And that is what's happened here with a lot of these witnesses.
Yes. Okay. So we'll go back and tally the record in a little bit, but we're going to get to some of the defense witnesses. So we're going to start. God, I'm ready for another drink. This Kelly Devers character. Pour yourself another drink. We need another drink. I need a drink to Kelly Devers, because this chick bothered me like nobody's business. I didn't like her. I didn't like her. I don't understand why I'm here. Well, you testified to the FBI.
Yeah.
And that's why you're here. We're going to get this. Let me read this back to you.
Now, you know what blows me away about
the standard.
Now, you know what blows me away about that statement? I don't know why I'm here. Is that the Canton Police Department obviously have to interview for her for the position of being a Canton police. If she's answering questions like that to her interview, why was she even on the police force in the first place?
I don't know.
I mean, that's something that is very scary. Okay. And you want to talk about somebody who's got an attitude. This woman's got an attitude. And okay, I guess that since she doesn't believe that she should be there, she's going to put up somewhat of a fight and put her feet in the sand.
Here's the bottom line with her. Can't stand her, unlikable. The whole, I couldn't have said that because there's no way. You don't make up a statement like that to the FBI and then recant it or whatever word you want to put on it. There's no way. I'm not buying it. I hope the jurors see the same thing.
I think if anything, the jurors just saw her attitude towards Jackson, because you can tell she does facial expressions in there. Like, oh my.
Well, he said my name correctly. Dude, exactly. You lost me at hello.
And exactly. And as a juror, because everybody here, all the jurors are all human. We're human. And she comes across negative. She comes across aggressive.
Yep.
And oh, by the way, the other thing that I don't think the defense could be brought up, and you had mentioned it to me, is that she no longer works for the Canton Police Department. She got promoted to, I think you said, the state police? Boston Police. And now she's making over $150,000 there. Wow. You went from doing overtime hours to watching Higgins and these people in there. They're trying to get her away from the Canton Police Department of all the stuff that can be asked, and that she's moved on. And they said, listen, by doing this and answering these questions for us, we're gonna
Do the right thing.
we're
Do
gonna
the right thing.
we're gonna give you some extra cash for that. Okay.
All right, Doctor. So I think both of our Kelly votes go to the defense. Correct.
There's not even.
I almost want to give two for the defense for the Kelly. I didn't like her.
I agree.
Didn't like her as a person.
I agree.
Anyways, okay. Dr. Marie Russell, what did you think about her?
Expert.
Yeah.
She is somebody where, and again, when I was watching this trial, when you watch the prosecution side witnesses and then you watch the defense side witnesses, when you get to just a witness or an expert witness, the witnesses in the defense side come across a lot more credible. They're very knowledgeable. They understand what they're talking about. For in this case, on the arm and the wounds, and
they answer their questions.
Exactly. And they don't seem to go off on a tangent. They're giving you science that you can actually go by when you're listening to them. And that is a huge, huge thing. The only thing I wish Dr. Russell would have done, because by watching this trial, I've done some other research on dog bites. And they do say,
now you're a dog bite expert?
Well, I guess you can call me that. Thank you very much. Mr. Jackson, let me give you my number. It's 555-5555. Here's the thing.
They can use you, but not Dr. Laposado.
Exactly. They do say when you have a dog bite, and it does show this here, is that dogs, when they bite and they clamp down, they're not chomping. What they're doing is they're pulling. They like to pull. And that's why, and you'll see Brennan when he says, oh, well, the headlight made these long laceration marks. No, that's a tooth mark being drugged because a dog has a tendency when they grab, they pull on it.
Dr. Russell, our votes go to the defense. No question.
Most definitely.
Done. Okay. My personal favorite witness of the entire last 6 weeks is Lucky. I love Lucky. I loved Lucky as a person,
yes,
as a genuine person.
Yes.
He's up there telling the truth.
Yes.
I don't care. My favorite quote of the entire trial. I did not feel threatened by an online blogger. Best quote of the whole deal. Why Brennan even went down that avenue? Dude, Lucky's a good dude. What are you doing? And then he says, well, I wasn't really doing much social media because my wife passed. What does Brennan say? Sorry about your wife. Back on this crap.
Exactly.
Brennan, you look like a dick.
Well,
like a dick.
It's funny. When he first got on the stand, I believed what he was saying. But when they start showing you pictures of his snowplow,
pretty cool.
And how big it is. Okay. It's not like what Brian Higgins had in front of his Jeep.
Right.
This is a big snowplow. And then they showed the lighting. Oh my God. You could go out there and you and I could go play catch with a baseball.
We could.
There is so much light that's coming. So when they say, oh, are you sure you didn't see this? It's lit up like stadium light.
You're lighting up city blocks.
You could see, and he has no reason. There is absolutely zero reason for him to lie about
the other things I liked learning about Lucky this trial, and they could have been in trial number 1 and I just missed it, was that he was a pizza delivery boy for Chris Albert in his restaurant. Okay, he's got a lay of the land. He grew up in Canton, but he delivered pizza. You deliver pizzas in a town like Canton, you know every address in the whole deal, right? The second thing I like knowing is why and how he knew about the Ford Escort out in the middle of the night. Being from California where it don't snow, I didn't know that it's illegal to have your car parked out on the street.
I agree.
So learning that information for me, I'm like, oh, that's how he knew. That's how he remembered a car being there, because there shouldn't be a car in the street. I thought that was really valuable.
Well, and then he also brought up,
but now everybody on the East Coast knows that, so I'm the idiot.
Well, again, though, the other thing that was good about him is, and he said it, he brought it up, was, yes, I knew that was Brian Albert's house. Yeah. He knew it was Brian Albert's house. And he even said, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt as being, as he quoted, a first responder.
Yep.
I'm not going to call my supervisor on him because he knew him. Yep. He knew that house. He knew that street.
I think Lucky's testimony was vastly improved this time versus last time.
Well,
Like I love just adding the first responder in there was
and other lawyers who have been on the channel who have been giving their opinions has said that Lucky in his first testimony got probably a C plus or B minus.
Oh, that's the lawyer
He's the lawyer Peter. And then they said
we're going to rank them too.
Yeah. And they said on this one, he goes, I give him an A because he stepped up. He was precise with his answers. He was direct. And then when Brennan tried to attack him, he stood his ground, but he didn't get flustered. And he continued to give his answers on what he said he saw.
Yeah.
And he saw nothing.
I liked him as a person.
Yeah.
Loved him as a witness. I think he helped.
Well, and again, as a juror, if you're sitting there and you're looking at this when he's getting questioned, what can he get out of this? He gets nothing. If he says he saw her, he gets nothing. And if he says I didn't see a body, he doesn't have any skin in the game. There's nothing there. So
okay. Karina, can't pronounce her last name. Friend, I don't think she did a whole lot. Nice person. I think she was there just to show that Karen did not have a blood alcohol level of a 0.29 or whatever the prosecution would. There's no way.
Well, hold on real quick on her. I will say that was a huge thing because she did state, oh yeah, I was sitting there talking to Karen all night. She seemed fine. Okay. Now that doesn't mean that Karen wasn't drinking. I think we both agree Karen was drinking. Okay. And you know what? I would also say she probably shouldn't have gotten behind the wheel. But Brennan tried to make her sound like she was falling down drunk. And her friend is stating
the polar opposite.
The exact opposite. And oh, by the way, she's with that group that we're going to get involved later on our theory on what actually happened.
Sergeant Barros, great witness for the defense. We don't need to get into too much. I just think good, honest cop doing the right thing, telling the right story. But he's not a part of the whole Canton police team.
No. And again, what does he have to get out of this if he says, I didn't see a complete shattered taillight. He has nothing to get out of this. Nothing. So again, as a juror, I would be thinking that way, going, okay, well, he's telling me he saw a little crack, not an explosion of the taillight. What's the purpose behind that?
So remember I sent you that one video, that still clip of Karen backing out of her car
and hitting.
Right. I'll put that here because I wish everybody could see that. Because if that trail light was truly, truly cracked, you would not see
the red
in the snow. I'll put that right here when we edit our video.
And when you see that, you're going to totally understand on what he's talking about.
Yeah, there's no. I actually emailed Attorney Jackson with that picture.
I can't believe he didn't get back to you. Doesn't he know that we're just two ordinary guys?
He's a little busy for our shenanigans right now. Okay, Dr. Daniel Wolf, the first ARCA witness.
You know what I love about him? This is a man who truly understands his own business.
Yep.
Okay. He is not going to let someone tangle up his words. He's not going to let someone tell him about what he does from a standpoint of an expert. And he sticks to it. He talks about the science of it. And I will tell you right now, he comes across completely credible because of the confidence that he gives on what he does for a living.
Yeah. I think he's a great witness, knowledgeable. And even when Brennan's trying to be a dick to him, he answers with a smile. No, sir, it wasn't that way, sir.
Yep.
I really liked him again as a witness, as a great aid to the defense. I don't want to say my problem, and this may go back to other issues higher than my knowledge. I still don't understand why Attorney Jackson can't ask ARCA more about who first hired you. Why aren't the jurors allowed to know that either the FBI or the Department of Justice was hired for them to investigate the shit show going on in Canton? Well, why can't the jurors know that?
Well, and again, like I told you, these are stuff, and I watched the other night the pre-trial on number one, which, to be honest with you, I don't have much hair. I was about to pull out the remaining part of my hair because of the pretrial
For number one.
for number
trial
one that came out for the instructions, what was allowed and not allowed to get into the first trial. And it's like, you know what? The defense has the right, just as much as the prosecution, to show their evidence if they believe that their client is innocent. Everybody is given the right to have a fair trial. And in this case, we don't know what some of the pretrial instructions were, and we don't know what's going on sidebar. And that is a huge thing. And in fact, they've even said at times that can be very confusing to a juror, especially if somebody, if they'll say the defense is making a point, and then they say sidebar. Again, you as a juror are sitting there going, what are they talking about? Are they talking about baseball? Are they talking about football? Oh, maybe they're talking about heart surgery. You don't know. And that's a big, big issue here because you know what? We do not get that information. And so I think at times that can be something can be a little misleading. And again, I think in this case, Dr. Wolf does a great job in that because you know what? His demeanor stays the same. And he's answering the questions truthfully. And that's, as at least as a juror, you take that away from him. Okay. You take that away.
I mean, even when Brennan was getting on him about the weight of the arm, all that bullshit, he held his ground. I thought you would have killed him. You would have gotten up and decked Brennan with the way but he held his ground. He was nice about it. Just a good guy doing his job. 2 votes for the defense.
Can I add one other thing on that? Because you just brought it up. The one thing I did love, and Brennan, because at times I think he walks into his own shit, is that when he brought up on Wolf about the weight of the arm, okay? And when we get down to the last doctor from ARCA, they talk about in that about the brunt force of an object that hits you, okay? If the arm would have been heavier, like Brennan said it could be, then the force is greater, which then would cause damage to the bones. And Brennan doesn't even know it because he is, in my opinion, at times, he's walking in his own shit. And so, again, that's why I think Dr. Wolf is completely credible. And I give a thumbs up for the defense on this one right here.
Yep, he was great. Then we get to the best doctor of the whole group.
Oh,
doctor, I mean,
you had your line. My line here is this. So, doctor, if that was the case and the arm hitting the tail light and the lacerations that could be possibly coming from the tail light, isn't that possible? It doesn't matter. It's not relevant. He didn't get hit.
Yeah.
He didn't get hit. That was her answer. That to me is game over, case closed. Oh, by the way, if I'm Brennan, I'm raising my flag. Yep. Can we dismiss this? It's over. Yep. Okay. That was to me the line of the trial right there. Yep. That was my line.
He was great. I mean, the part I struggled with was when the jury wasn't there and you had prosecution defense arguing over what she's allowed to testify.
Exactly.
As a non-legal person, as just an ordinary guy, right? Hearing that shit show, I have a hard time with that. As a juror, give me all the information.
Exactly.
Why are you taking, I mean, she's got more degrees than God. I'm licensed in California, right? Do you know what it would take to have multiple license and multiple? That's a lot.
Oh, yeah.
She's multiple licenses.
Well, and she's
runs the Rhode Island as far as dude.
Well,
you let someone like that go.
Well, and she's been a mental examiner for 40 years, and she's gotten numerous awards for her work.
She teaches so many classes.
She teaches.
Jackson had to come up with 13 that she's taught on. She's probably taught 1,000 different classes over.
Right. Well, and I will tell you right now. Now, I will say this about her, and I loved her as a witness. Okay. Brennan had a chance, though. Brennan had a chance in this case with her when the jurors were out. He was going to try to discredit her.
Okay.
And he brought up, because in Rhode Island, I think there was a fire and a lot of people died. And supposedly they did an audit on her. and she got discredited in some issues. And part of it was because of tissue and stuff like that, and because of the timetable they were doing and how much time they were taking. Now, this was all coming out from Brennan, and he could have, when he crossed her, he could have tried to discredit her. And I think he didn't do that because I think he knew, and it came out, Brennan has used her in the past.
Oh, geez.
He used her in the past as a witness. So I think he is walking a fine line there. Now,
Really?
when it got recrossed back to Jackson, he cleared everything up because A, she was understaffed. She admitted that. And then about the resignation of her at that office, the reason why she resigned was because a new boss came in and wanted her to cut corners on those autopsies. And she said, I will not do that. Every life matters.
Yeah, I think the bottom line with her, she's a sweetheart of a person. She's totally trustworthy. Anything that comes out of her mouth, 110% believable. She was great.
And again, look, we all know because, I think it was, where's our lovely doctor, Dr. Welcher, who got paid somewhere in the neighborhood of $350,000 to $400,000.
Double it because they haven't billed for second trial.
Okay. So obviously, witnesses get paid and all that. We don't know in this case if she's getting money, and she might be. I haven't heard anything about it.
She should. Expert witnesses.
Exactly. But I don't think that she's out there looking at it as this is a way for me to make a living on trying to get paid big bucks for this.
I don't know. I think this is what she does for a living now, which is fine.
Okay.
But she's not,
okay.
It's probably, in the state of California, you can charge a couple $100 per hour. So it's probably, it's probably
well, I guess what I'm saying is that she is not going to say, you need to pay me to say what you want me to say.
Oh, Lord, no.
She's going to say, I'm going to tell you my honest medical opinion.
Use me if you want.
And this is, yeah, exactly. If fine, I get paid, but I'm going to tell you what I believe the scientific facts are to this case. So I think, at least for me, she was a huge witness, huge. And again, she was another person where Brennan tried to lean into her. And just like when she said the remark, well, it doesn't matter. It's not relevant. He never got hit. She stood her ground. And in fact, when that happened, Brennan, you can tell, gets a little nervous.
So I think we both agree, Dr. Laposada, she's a huge witness for the defense. Two check marks, 2 stars for her in the defense. Now, as of now, that's where I'm caught up. I had patients today. I did not get to see today's live stream. I have not. That's where we're at today. So that ended yesterday. Dr. Andrew was on end of last night and today. I haven't seen it, so you can speak.
Very, very credible. In fact, if you look at his testing versus what Dr. Welcher did, his testing, he uses a crash dummy. He shows how, I think, what do they call the dummy? I think they call it Randy, something like that.
Recourse Randy.
Whatever. And so basically he's showing how when the car, and he's showing it compared to Dr. Welcher, the car is moving in his direction, meaning the car is the one that is going to be is
producing the force.
Producing the force. Thank you. And so I thought him to be very credible because, as he said, and here's the other thing that we didn't bring up, okay, which in Dr. Welcher, okay, when we get to our lovely Elizabeth, they brought in for the first time in both trials x-rays.
I did like seeing those.
X-rays.
Yeah, knowing how to read those and
now,
seeing
those. Never even brings this.
I like seeing those.
Welcher never even brings this up.
Yeah.
And the x-rays show at the force that John was hit at, there was no breaks, no fractures, nothing to do with the wrist, nothing to do with the forearm, nothing to do with the elbow, nothing to do with the shoulder.
I got a timeout moment.
Okay.
So let's go back to Blue Paint Man. Or what's the Vegas show? The Blue Paint Group?
The
Blue Man Group.
The Blue Man.
Blue Man Group. So let's go back to Dr. Welcher and his Blue Man Group. So if you go back and you look closely at the pain on his arm, it goes from like here to here, right? It doesn't go all the way to here. Look at John's arm. It ain't the same. It would make the taillight like this big go back and compare wounds on John's arm to Blue Man Group. It's still not a match.
Well, and again, the great thing about it is that when you got Elizabeth and then you got Dr. Andrew, they both talk about the x-rays, and they both, now, unless you think the defense is in the cahoots, they both say there's not a break, there's not a fracture, there's nothing that's going on from anywhere from the hand all the way up to the shoulder with the force that you were talking about.
You'd separate that shoulder in 2 seconds.
You would have
tremendous amounts of damage.
And oh, by the way, now, and here's the other thing that really bothered me about our lovely Aunt Bev was that when Elizabeth was talking about her injuries, they did not allow her to go into tissue, bruising, and stuff like that. Okay. And it's funny because I was thinking about this when they were talking about that, going, oh my God, I remember when I played baseball, you get hit with a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, you're going to bruise. Yep. You're going to bruise. It happens. It's, it's just part of the way it is. And in this case, there is no bruising, but more importantly, because of the x-rays, there is no breaks, zero, no even fractures, not even hairline fractures. Yep. So again, I think in this case, it discredits what Welcher was bringing up. And it also shows that our lovely boy Brennan was holding off on passing off x-rays because they obviously took him at the hospital. Otherwise, how do these two experts get a chance to take a look at it?
They went over this early, either trial number 2, but the amount of time that it took the prosecution to produce material is ungodly.
It's, again, that
just a shit show.
And again, right there, to me, that is reason of doubt.
Red flag.
Stop the trial before you could, unless you correct this right now, end of story, game over.
Yeah.
Okay. And I can say this, and I think I can speak for my lovely friend here. We're not lawyers, but I will tell you right now, that's not allowed in the court of law. It's just not allowed. Okay. And this case should have been dismissed. In fact, you know what really pisses me off about this is that if I lived in Massachusetts, I would be pissed as a taxpayer because I'm paid for this crap.
Yep.
And I will tell you right now, the citizens in Canton are finally standing up and they're letting these people know this is not acceptable.
Well, okay.
This is not acceptable. I'm sorry for getting off track. You're getting me a little fired up.
Let's get fired up. So I know I'd like to thank a lot of the lawyers on YouTube that have done such a diligent job and their hard work as far as producing good content for us idiots. Every morning, my wife and I wake up to Emily Baker. That's kind of what in California, I stream Emily at my doctor's office, and it's going all day. And I would say in the last month and a half, we've only had 2 patients out of, I'm going to say, I don't know, 500 or 600 maybe hear or know or have any knowledge about the Karen Reed case in Northern California. So that, just so you guys know why we're making this video. Nobody in California knows about it. And giving our following of 0 people, we're just, maybe one of our buddies will watch this.
Well, I think the biggest thing about it is that obviously, like he said, he got me involved in this, and because I got him involved in the Amber Heard trial. Mm-hmm. And so maybe he was trying to repay me. Payback, because it was going to be a long trial. But I think that if you have been watching this trial, and I think a majority of people who are watching it are seeing so many mistakes being made by, and we're talking, this doesn't just start at the prosecution table. This starts at Morrissey, the district attorney, which then comes down to the judge, Aunt Bev, who is complete biased, in my opinion. In fact, she's been caught at time giving signals to Brennan. We have had discussions where, and I've watched some other trials on YouTube, the Lisa or Lori Dayville, the mom cult.
Yep.
And I watched that trial for just one reason. And I wanted to hear that in that case. And I asked Doc here, is that when you give an objection, usually you have to give a reason behind your objection. Objection, Your Honor, hearsay, objection, leading the witness. In this case, you don't hear that.
Yeah.
All you hear is an objection. And oh, by the way,
That may be a state thing. I don't
it
know.
might be. And again, we don't know that. But here's the thing. If you watch and you hear some of Brennan's objection, she's giving the sustained motion before he's not even finished off saying the word objection. And again, I don't understand how that can be even allowed in a court of law.
Yeah.
And it's very obvious. Now, from watching other lawyer channels, you can't just go in there and say that you're going to try to impeach a judge from a standpoint of penalties or getting her off the bench because you don't like her or you think she's being mean. You actually have to come up with evidence in lawyers' terms or in the standpoint of saying that she's doing things against the law, the written law. So I don't know if they're going to be able to do that, but you can tell in this case there is definitely a biased opinion.
Well, and Alan Jackson said that early on. He said something like, not only does he have to go against Adam Lally in trial number one, he felt like he was having to fight Auntie Bev and the district attorney's office. He felt like he wasn't just going against the other lawyer. He felt there was a battle against the whole legal system along the line. And I remember thinking, well, that's a crazy thing to say. But after watching it, you're like, interesting. So let's stop on this topic. Let's go through, let's rank some of the YouTubers, the lawyers that provide us content. Who's your favorite?
I love the lawyer, Peter. His last name starts with a D, and I don't even want to try to pronounce it because God
He's
knows
great.
I would butcher.
Thank you, Peter, for all your stuff.
Yes, I think the reason why I really, really enjoy Peter and listening to him is he is a defense attorney, but he is completely unbiased. In fact, during the trial, he has said numerous times that he has given Brennan hey, Brennan brought up a good point there.
Yep.
And I will tell you right now, I think Brennan at times has brought up some things that you could look at and say, okay, maybe that makes sense. But Peter does a good job, and he also does a good way of explaining how the law works.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I think in general, if you're watching the Karen Reed trial, you get to the point where you are just pissed off.
Frustrated. Yeah.
You're frustrated, but with me, I'm sorry, I'm pissed.
Yeah.
And I'm pulling my hair out, what little hair I have. But the point is that you have to still follow the letters of the law. And that doesn't mean just because you don't like somebody makes them either innocent or guilty. You have to follow the letters of the law. And I would say that Peter does a great job of explaining that. Yeah. He's helped me out to understand it more. And I think with me also understanding it more, I now get a little bit more upset because it's like, oh my God, that's ridiculous. So he's the kind of the guy that I go to on that case.
So who I really like is Buckle Up Larry.
Oh, Larry Foreman.
So here's why. I love his 20, 30-minute videos.
Yeah.
Right. And Emily, I just put on in the background. It's background music all day long at the office. But I love how Larry sums it all up. Now he does.
Oh, Larry's fiery. Larry is very fiery. Larry looks like the kind of guy that he would love to punch somebody.
He's a little biased.
Yeah. Oh, Larry's biased.
But rightfully so. He probably has some good insight where he's like, how are you saying that? So I do appreciate his biasness, if that's a word. I can appreciate his passion.
Yeah, I agree.
I appreciate his content. I like that he's gone back and he's changed out all the front pages of his videos. I appreciate the graphics part of what he did.
Yeah.
Right. I think what a time we live in where we watch more of them than anything. That's all I watch right now.
Yeah, I agree. And he's just like Peter in the sense of he's very informative. He knows the law. He explains the law.
Yeah.
But
of all the stuff on YouTube, I think we both agree Microdots is freaking awesome. Right? The first Microdot, because I had just got done watching the Hulu Body in the Snow and kind of switched, the channel and got over to YouTube and saw something popped up and I saw my first Microdots and they sucked me in. I'm like,
well, just the way that
Who is microdots? Who are they?
I-
How do they have this insight? How are they getting this knowledge?
I will tell you right now, if you have not seen any of the microdots videos, you need to
Incredible.
you have to go watch it just for the standpoint of this. You feel like you're watching a movie.
Yep.
You're not watching, in this case, the court case or arguments. You feel like, oh my God, this is the
Like you're
movie of the
there.
week in NBC.
Yeah.
And they give you what they believe is their opinion on what has happened in this
Yeah.
case.
Yeah.
And again, I no, I agree with you. In fact, I watched the
I've
thing.
seen every one. I've seen every microdots production they've done regarding this trial, and they have not done a bad one.
No,
I mean,
I totally agree with you.
I think they're absolutely wonderful. Okay, last thing we're going to do before we bore you anymore, we're going to rank the attorneys. All the attorneys in this case, you and I are just going to hammer it out right now. Top to bottom, who's your favorite attorney?
Alan Jackson.
Mine too.
There's no, and I will tell you the reason why I like Alan Jackson is he is.
Well, he's a great country singer too.
This is why I love him. This is why I love him. He is.
He can do it all.
He's confident. He is. You can understand him. He is clear. In fact, to the point when you can tell he tones it down when he needs to make sure that the jurors are going to understand something. When he makes an important message, he then pauses to make sure that the jurors can get it and it sinks in. He's articulate. You can tell when he needs to get fired up, and you can tell when he stays calm. So
yeah, I not a lawyer, right? But you know when you like somebody,
yeah.
right? And watching trial number one was very interesting with how he handled Jen McCabe, right? Trial number one, he was in her grill, right? Just on her, because she's lying, lie after lie, right? And if you watch the second trial, he backed off. Like he kind of let the reins go until you got to the end. And he's a genius how he handled that, because I think Jen thought he was going to go down this road.
Yep.
And he did a 180, and he's like, I wish I had his exact verbiage memorized, but like,
oh, he sucked her in.
Weren't you concerned? There's a dead body in the front yard.
Yeah.
Didn't you have any concern for your sister or her husband and their grave danger, or whatever great word he put on that? Like, I remember watching that live. I'm like, he's a genius.
Yeah,
he's a flat out genius.
And again, he knows how to raise and lower his voice, in my opinion. Which that to me is, if I'm a juror, I appreciate that, because he's trying to emphasize on certain points that are really strong, and then other points that he's just trying to get across.
But I'm talking the emotion that came out of his voice in those last 30 seconds to 1 minute, Jen McCabe's last 30 seconds to a minute on the stand. That's what I appreciated. His passion, his knowledge, his genius, brilliant.
Well, and the one last thing is too, is that when yesterday, which would have been on Tuesday when the day was over, and they do the end of the things with the judge, and the judge, Brennan, had one emotion about not allowing something in. And, when they allow the defense to talk, then the prosecutor can talk, and she made her motion, and they were back.
Oh, this is that La Posada could use the term animal.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so when they sat back down, she said, okay, is there anything else? And even Peter from Lawyer said this. He goes, he stood up and he fought for his client.
Yeah.
And by fighting for his client, judge changed her opinion and said, okay, I'll allow you to do it if you say animal instead of dog. Yeah. That to me is someone who has passion for their job and believes.
Now, I'll tell you the other thing I liked about that, because they had La Posada on the stand, and she kept using the word the canine teeth, the canine teeth, the canine teeth.
Dude, which was, hey,
I think that is.
She was a dude. That's why
brilliant.
That's why
they both know what they're doing.
Yes.
Don't use the word dog.
Yeah.
They're talking about a freaking dog.
Right.
Okay. Exactly. Alan Jack, who's your number two? Who's your number two?
Well, I would go with probably Yannetti, just because I think Yannetti is kind of more of the calmer guy. He's kind of the middle guy, because Alicia
I ranked, that's my list in order.
Okay.
So
All right.
I put Alessi second.
Or Alessi, sorry, excuse me.
I just thought in this trial, he had more action. I thought he was given more to do with handling some of the expert forensic cell phone. I thought he was given a greater task in this case, which is why I ranked Alessi above Yannetti.
Well,
That's why.
the only reason why I say you're getting that second is because he's the buffer between Jackson and our boy here, Alessi, in the standpoint of he's kind of sandwiched in between the middle of those two. And because our boy Alessi, he gets fired up.
Oh, I love
it when he gets fired up.
I love it.
But I think what they do is instead of having a body blow, and then go for the knockout, it's I'm going to get a jab here. Yannetti calms him down, and then he comes over the top with it. So
I don't remember.
I think
she's great. She's great, but she's definitely Alan Jackson's like right-hand man.
Well, I think what she does,
they work good together.
Does a lot of behind scenes from the standpoint of picking up things that are going on,
passing notes,
and all that, which you definitely need. She's definitely, as I like to say, a team player. Yeah. She is definitely a team player in that sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
My fifth ranked attorney on the case was Karen herself. Yep. I ranked Karen. I put her in the legal team. She was up there fighting for herself. I love to see a defense lawyer, right? I think she not only is she the accused, I think she's part of that legal team, and she is. She's admitted. I think she's hats off to her for doing all the hard work.
Well, and when they've shown documentaries of them together in the back room doing their stuff, she's not sitting there in the corner having a glass of Chardonnay and all
what
that.
are you guys saying about me?
Yeah,
she's working.
She's on the
she on the laptop. This whole deal's a scam.
She's on the laptop. She's fighting for her life. So yeah, that makes sense there.
I like her as fifth ranked attorney in this trial. My next, again, we haven't inverted the blackboard so you can see my list. I'm gonna put Lolly second or first on the prosecution list, sixth overall, and he did nothing. He did nothing this trial, and I'm still going to rank him above Laura, who really didn't see much more of. I'm even going to put Beverly Cannoni she's half lawyer because she's working for the prosecution. I'm putting her in my rank of attorneys because I felt she didn't help the defense. She wasn't fair is what I'm trying to say. That's why I put her on that list.
Yeah. Well, and again, look, Lolly, if you go back and you've seen the first trial, you can tell, and I told Doc this today, he is in over his head. Okay. He's not even the lead criminal prosecutor for that county. And they had him go on for trial one. And the reason why is Morrissey needed a guy that he could control. Yeah. And oh, by the way, when it went to trial number 2, all the prosecutors for that county said, we want nothing to do with this. Yeah. That's why they ended up going outside and getting Brennan. Yeah. That's why they did that.
Well, you're being given just a shitbag case.
Yes. And I will tell you, Brennan, for his little weasel ways that he is good at times on how he works certain roadmaps. He does ringing of the bell pretty well. What he did with the sweatshirt, stating and getting, Wolf to say, oh, well, look at the puncture wounds, when it was his own guy who made the cuts. And he knew he was going to get this. He knew he was going to get his wrist slapped. But again, he's trying to be a good lawyer to get this case so that he can win it. So, I mean, Brennan, I think in his own way, has his ways of trying to get things done.
Here's my take on Brennan. And I told you this from like day number 1. He's like a cartoon character. He's like a lawyer from The Incredibles, right? He's just like a made up, squeaky little, almost villainous character.
I know exactly the guy you.
I don't like him. I don't like him. I don't like his whiny little voice. I don't like his bitchy little attitude. And I don't like the way he handles all the witnesses.
All of them. Yeah.
He's arrogant.
He's completely arrogant.
With Lucky. right? I'm sorry about your wife. Now back to this. You were threatened by a blogger,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
I don't like it.
Exactly.
And so again, he's being handed a shitbag case and he's having it. Now he did the whole prosecution did better this trial
Oh, most definitely.
than trial number one. They
Exactly.
definitely did better. But in my opinion,
But then again,
I hope the jurors see it this way. Karen needs to be acquitted.
well, again, and then you said, they did a lot better than they done on number one. But hey, the way I look at it is this: you give me a test, and then you allow me to retake the test after I see what the first
100%,
test is,
100%.
you're going to do better.
You're going to do better.
You're going to do better. You're going to go back and look at the mistakes that you made, and you're going to work on those to make sure you don't make the same mistakes. And I think that's one reason why, if you look at this, and we didn't even bring this up, that the prosecution did not even call Proctor, Higgins, Brian Albert, Chris Albert,
Any of the wives nor the kids.
and Tully.
And yeah.
They didn't call any of these people. And I think part of it is that because people keep asking the question, why didn't the defense call this? And I think that one of the reasons why was, listen, we don't need them. Our job is to get people to understand that this is about, they're saying Karen Reed got hit by a car.
John got hit by a car.
I'm sorry, John got hit by a car. Excuse me. Okay. If they can prove that John wasn't hit by the car, case closed.
Yeah.
You don't need to bring in the other guys. And I think the other guys too is, I believe, and this is my opinion, which doesn't mean jack. Oh, by the way, I'm going to have another one. Is that I think they're going to leave these guys alone for right now, because I think at the end, the feds are going to come in and they're going to use the stuff that they had from the first trial, and they're not going to give them a chance to kind of recant on what they said in the first trial.
Here's my take on that. If Karen is acquitted, which hopefully she will soon after everything ends, once she's acquitted, I think that from a legal Department of Justice, FBI point of view, that gives them the saving grace to go in and start looking at some of these cops destroying their phones and those type of things. Now, one thing we did not talk about much yet, I mean, this trial, in trial number 2, we got to see the full text thread between Karen Reed and Brian Higgins. In trial number 1, in my opinion, Brian Higgins was a jerk, right? Like
most definitely.
Like he's shredding his phone. There's just all the crap going on with him. But I have to say, I watched that Yuri read the full text thread between Karen and Brian Higgins. I have to say I have more respect for Brian Higgins after reading that text thread. I don't think he's the evil person I thought in trial number 1. I think Brian Higgins is actually an okay guy. I don't think his hands are clean in all this, but I'm saying from that text thread, he's not as bad as I perceived him to be from trial number 1.
I would say that. Remember what I told you when we first started talking about this? Most murder cases, and I'm excluding serial killers, okay, are done with usually 3 factors. Okay. Money, love, jealousy. Okay. And in this case, Brian, in my opinion, you can tell he is not happy because he believes that he really, I think at one point, he really did Karen. He really did. And I think he believes he gets played. And he does not that night. And you and I have disagreement.
We are going to disagree on this last topic. We'll get into our theories.
But the thing about it is that he gets into, he was drinking since 2:00 that afternoon with Brian. And basically, Brian Albert, excuse me, is that this is something that he is adamant about. He's pissed. He really is. So I guess I still think he's part of it. I really do. In the standpoint of, I think he was a good reason why John was killed.
Brian Higgins isn't the killer. I'm saying it, not you.
No.
That's my opinion.
And I will say right now, I don't think Brian Higgins is the killer. In fact, I think the killer is, I think a lot of people, and I think the reason when our lovely judge said, we're not going to have this one guy end up testifying,
Yeah.
because she thought they were children. Oh, by the way, he's over 18 years old. So I don't get how that works.
So I'm gonna tell you my theory, and you
Okay.
can rip it to shreds. It's
No,
just
I'm
a
not going
theory.
to. It's,
You can tell me yours.
okay.
So I had a theory again. My wife works for the Department of Justice, and I have access to some of her friends. And so I called them regarding this case. Of course, they knew nothing about it, and this is all they do all day long, and they didn't want to talk to me about anything, anyways. And on our other board by the other TV, we have a whiteboard with the times in case I need to go look at it. But I'll sum it up what I think happened to the best of my ability. I think John and Karen leave the waterfall. They go to Brian Albert's house. John gets out of the car quickly, and I mean very quickly, an altercation happens, and it's quick. And I think that altercation initially happens between Brian Higgins and John O'Keefe. Something happens. I don't know what. A dog is involved. I'm not sure what happens. I think Colin is the one that delivers the blow to the back of the head. And the reason I think that way is some of the videos that you've seen on YouTube. He's very violent. He's in that age group where he's playing video games.
You mean bang bang?
So he's in that age group. Let me back up 1 second. Brian Higgins, Brian Alberts, all those cops, they are trained in tactical, they are weapons. Their hands are weapons. They know how to punch, they know how to kill, they know how to take down, they know what it's going to take to hurt another human. Colin is the one in that scenario that does not know. And I think either he was pushed or I mean, I do like the theory. I have a theory that Colin is the one that originally hit John in the back of the head. I think there's a fight. I think that's how his right eye got cut. I think there's some minor defensive wounds, which fits my theory. I think the altercation is quick, but I think it's actually Colin that delivered the blow to the back of the head. I almost don't agree with Dr. Laposada. I don't think it's a fall against the stair or a grainy surface. When she's talking about those striations on John's skull, I think that's coming from a dumbbell. That's my theory. And here's what I think happens next. Like all cops, they like to separate. You go over here, you stay down. I think Brian Albert takes control of the situation. John is left in the basement. He's yelling at Higgins. They're going to put the dog upstairs. They're going to calm this. That's what cops do. You go in this cell, you go in this cell. They're going to calm the situation. Meanwhile, John's downstairs, right? They're calming the situation upstairs. And when they go check on John, this is just my theory. I'm not sure after the MRI, after seeing that data, but I'm gonna tell you my theory anyways. I think John, on his own power, makes his way out of the basement somewhere along the back. I'm not sure. I've never seen a picture of the Albert backyard. I think he makes his way outside because then everything I'm going to tell you from this point forward makes sense. When member of the house goes downstairs to look for John, he's not there. Who's John's closest friend in the house? Jennifer McCabe. All of her text messages, those 7 butt dials, her text messages match my theory. Hello, are you there? She's trying to get a hold of him, not searching for his phone. They all think John got out of the basement, went around the backyard, and left with Karen. That's what they think. That's why Brian Higgins goes to the police station. That's why Jen McCabe calls him. That's my theory. It matches. And it matches one step further at 5:04 a.m. when Karen calls Jen, right? John never came home. John never came home. Who does Jen McCabe call next? She calls her sister. She calls Brian Albert. Hey, John did not get in the car with Karen. Check the backyard, right? I think they go outside, they find John, they drag him out into the snow where he's found. I think that is what happens. I think he's in the backyard. That's why Lucky doesn't see him. The 27 people leaving 34 Fairview don't see him. That's one that makes sense to me. My biggest problem that I have with all of this, right? I don't care how bad of a cop you are, or if you haven't watched one single mafia movie in the history of mankind, you would never in a million years leave a dead body on your front yard. I don't think this was intended to be this way. What?
Gotta have her say it.
What?
Kids, keep it down.
Are we being too loud? A little loud. Is your workday not over? We're almost done. We're just going to hear his theory and then we're done. We're done in 2 minutes. We're almost done. You made it through the last hour. That's my theory. I actually emailed my theory to Attorney Jackson. Did never hear back from him, but I like my theory.
I will say this. His second part of his theory, I can agree with. But in my opinion, this was premeditated. Okay. And the reason why I believe this was premeditated is you look at everybody that ends up at the waterfall. Okay. They all the key players in this end up, at least from the standpoint of people who are actually involved in the death of John O'Keefe. They all end up at waterfall. And you can see Brian Higgins on camera agitated, extremely agitated. In fact, he's doing the typical, if you want to call it, male gorilla thing.
Alpha male.
He's wrestling with Brian Higgins. They're doing all this. He's trying to get Karen's attention. She could give 10 shits about him.
Yep.
Then at the end of the night, when they're about to leave, he's waving him on. Come on. He's trying to get him to he's trying to agitate him.
Yeah, but that's for a fight. I don't think that's to kill him.
Oh, but hold on. So the next key thing that happens there is Karen is about to leave. And Jennifer McCabe admitted and said, hey, you.
You're coming with me.
You're coming with me. Okay. Now, she has already said that she is not great friends with Karen, but she is enforcing herself to come with her. Now, there's two ways to look at this. You could say, and Jennifer McCabe never said this. She could have said, hey, Karen, you're coming with me. I believe you've had too much to drink. I don't want you driving. But she didn't say that. She didn't say that at all. She's just said, hey, you're coming with me. And it was left at that. And Karen did not go with her. In fact, I would love for someone to ask Karen, oh my God, have you ever thought about if you would have gotten in the car with her? Because she might not even be around. Secondly, when they get to the house, okay, because as Doc was pointing out, and his theory was, hey, we're going to rough him up a little bit. Okay, but here's the problem with that. If you're going to rough him up, he eventually is going to have to go back to work. He's going to have to explain why he's got a black eye, why he's got a cut on his face. Okay, he's going to have to explain that to somebody. Secondly, he's going to have to explain, okay? He's going to have to explain, or I'm sorry, he's not going to have to explain. Secondly, he's going to hold the cards over Higgins, Albert, all the people that were there at the house, meaning that, hey, I got the shit beat out of me, but I can still get you people in trouble if I ever want to. And do you think those people would want them having that over his head? But third, the most important thing is this. He would have to explain to Karen why and who beat him up. Do you think he's going to look at Karen and say, well, you know what, honey, I had too much to drink and I fell down in the snow. And it's not going to work. And she's not going to fall for that. Okay, so I believe when he got into the house, people said to him, hey, they're downstairs. So he's going downstairs, minding his own business. Oh, by the way, he's got a glass in his hand. And I think when he gets down close to the bottom of the stairs, he gets ambushed. Okay. And I think when he gets ambushed, because they brought it up in the case, they found a piece of glass or supposedly something in his nose. The glass that he's holding is now broken, so it can hit him in the face. I think I agree with Doc here that I think Colin gets involved here. Okay.
Why do you, the reason I feel that way is because everybody hid him from being there.
Exactly. And oh, by the way, when they talk
Allie's
about
lies,
yes,
just
exactly.
the whole my life 360.
Well, and then when they talked about things in the past of why when John gets on him about, throwing trash on his lawn and
Yep.
stuff like that. And then, oh, by the way, the video of Colin.
With the knuckles.
Oh, by the way, he's underage. So no one seems to talk about how, and again, we've all done it, but he's underage and he's on camera and he's pretty much threatening. Doesn't say John, but then he says, bang, bang. Come on. These are things that are never really brought back out. In fact, judge won't allow that on the videotape. She doesn't allow it. Okay. Now, the big issue is this, because we had talked about this before. Yes, I said at first, I believed he got hit in the back of the head with a barbell. But when Elizabeth, I'm sorry, I'm bad with,
and we've had 3 shots.
and I'm bad at pronouncing names, is when she says that the back of the head is hit with a ridge, I think then basically what happens is when he's down on the ground, I think that's when the dog, and I don't think the dog at first is there to be, I don't think the dog is there to be basically part of this plan. But when you get around a dog who is agitated and he's around people and things start to happen, a dog will get involved. Dogs can get involved, especially if they think the people that they know are getting harassed, right?
Stranger, not
So the
getting a
dog
stranger.
then will definitely the dog gets onto the arm, and then I think John tries to get up and they knock him over, and that's when he hits his head. Okay. And I think they're all, oh my God, they were probably planning to taking him somewhere else. And then basically, I do agree with Doc in the sense of somehow they believe he's knocked out or whatever, and they're going to go upstairs and figure it out. And John does get out. He does get out. And then it goes from there. And I think they realize we've got a serious problem on our hand, and they don't know how they're going to cover it up. And then to them, they felt like they got a gift because, oh my God, we can use Karen in this situation.
Yeah. My problem with it being premeditated is that these are 20, 30-year veterans of the police force, right? These are not morons. These are knowledgeable police officers with incredible track records as far as they've been working for their whole career doing this stuff. If they truly wanted to kill John O'Keefe, you'd never do it. You'd never do it at your home. You'd go, hey, John, we're going on a hunting trip. There's 1,000 other ways to do it. I have a hard time with the whole premeditated happening at 34 Fairview in those circumstances. I don't think it's, and when you sit and you look at the timeline of it all, if at 12:31 or 12:32, when everything goes down, John actually doesn't die until on the way to the hospital. Or it means they wanted to kill him. They could have killed him and buried him in the backyard, and we're not even talking about
Okay,
this.
again, you have to look at this in the sense of Brian Higgins, Brian Albert, they both said it. They had been drinking since 2:00. 2:00 in the afternoon. Brian Higgins even admits, I don't like beer. He likes this. He likes whiskey. So he's getting a little cloudy on what's going on here. Okay. He's getting cloudy. And I think at the same time,
He remembered he had to go back and move cars.
yeah, well, okay. Well, because obviously he probably stopped at one point to stop drinking. He's trying to clear his head. But more importantly is this, they probably thought that Jennifer could get Karen into the car, because then that would have been a way that they could put them together and then they could do this thing together and be done with it. Okay. They could be done with it. The other thing is, and you and I have talked about this, did John have something on this family?
Yeah.
And we don't know that. I'm just bringing that up. And again, there's holes in my theory. I know there is.
There's holes in all our theories.
But if you look at the
There's
way
holes in the defense's theory.
if you look at in the sense of how it starts at the waterfall, okay? And I get it. When Brian Higgins is doing this, you're right. It looks like, let's go outside and let's rumble. Let's do that. Okay, I can believe that. But when Jennifer McCabe, okay, the witch of all witches, in my opinion, all right? In fact,
I'll drink to that.
she should be in Wicked 2, in my opinion, okay? Is that when she says, and she even states it. In fact, again, like Doc said earlier in this podcast, was when he said, if somebody asks you a question and you just say, yes, that's true. No, just say yes. But no, she elaborated on it because there's no audio on that video. And what does she say? I said, hey, you're coming with me. What does that tell you? And oh, by the way, she gave no explanation after that on why she said that. So that to me, that tells me something is going on. Okay. Something is going on. And again, I find it hard to believe that if this was just going to be a shakedown, that you think the Alberts and Higgins are going to allow John to have that over them once this clears up? He can have that on them for the rest of your life. Hey, listen here, Mr. Albert, if you don't give me X amount of dollars, I'm going to the police because you beat the shit out of me.
I think the military, I think police is a little different than you and I know. I would not be surprised if there's, look, John's the youngest cop in the group, and there's a little, we're going to rough him up for being a dick to Chris and Colin. I don't think, me personally, I don't think this is premeditated. I have a hard time.
Well, and again, I see your point, and like I said, there's part of what you said I do agree with. It's just that
I do think they drug John from the backyard to the front yard.
Oh,
and you knew who would have got blamed with that? Our boy Lucky.
Yeah, exactly.
Our boy Lucky would have been blamed there.
Well, and that's what some people are saying is Lucky, you got, because they thought maybe they could have used that as an excuse.
Lucky got lucky.
And he accidentally hit him. But I'm just saying to you that if you look at the very beginning of this, and when Jennifer McCabe says what she says, you just don't say that. Yeah. Now, if she would have said, I said, hey, you're coming with me. And the reason why I said that was I thought she had too much to drink. So I was looking out for her so she didn't drive. Okay. You know what?
I would buy that.
I would buy that. But she didn't say that. She just said, hey, you're coming with me. And first of all, who says, hey, you? Okay. If I'm with him, I'm not yelling, hey, you. I'm yelling, hey, Doc. That's what I'm yelling. So this tells me right here, there is some premeditation about this. I think people knew what was going to be going down. Okay. How about this? I think there was premeditation on they're going to fuck him up. Okay.
Now that I buy into.
How about that?
That I buy into.
Okay. How about this?
That I buy into.
Premeditation that they were going to fuck him up. They knew ahead of time that this was going to happen. All right.
That I buy into.
And then it turned into oh my God, you killed him, you son of a bitch. And then Brian Albert said, let me take over. I have the expertise. I can orchestrate this. And oh, by the way, the biggest thing about this whole case to me, and why this case should have been dismissed, and I've said this to him, and I know he is tired of hearing this. I could go pick out a 15-year-old right now, and they can do a better job on securing the scene than what the Canton Police Department did. Everybody knows, just from the standpoint of putting Scotch tape around the body.
Even the movie Naked Gun,
yeah, exactly. Naked Gun
did a better job with the taped up body in the water. They put like yellow tape in the water in the movie Naked Gun.
And so please tell me how policemen, these are people who are trained, doesn't understand on how to secure a crime scene. And then, oh, by the way, when they bring in the people who are going to be doing the searching for evidence, and somebody says, well, and I'm not sure about the tools. And one of the guys says, hey, listen, I got a leaf blower. Are you kidding me? No. That is reason of doubt right there. That's why this case is irritated the hell out of me. Okay. And again, I am not sitting here and saying that Karen Reed is this perfect human being, because she's not. But that doesn't mean she killed somebody. And this case is
there's no way
shambles. Absolute shambles. Okay. Shambles. And it's a disgrace. It is a disgrace to the justice system. And I'll tell you right now, is if I was a resident of Canton, I would be, I think a lot of those people there are scared and nervous to speak out, but I would also be pissed as hell. Yeah. Because now you're bringing our lovely city into the United States for everybody to see in the world
For decades.
in fact, he and I have said this both. There are going to be law professors. There are going to be people that are going to use this case as an example. If I am a police station, I am using this to teach my officers to make sure that you do the proper things on securing.
Like the Las Vegas guys. They do such a great job. They're
Yes.
like, we're getting a little long. We're gonna have to edit this bad boy down. But I love their videos. Just a little lengthy, right? Which is back to the DUI guy. I like those short little videos, my man.
So
They're-
again, we'll wrap this up. We're going to put a nice little bow on this. I would like to say, and I'm going to say this to you, my good friend, thank you for getting me involved in this case.
Yep.
Because you know what? There's too many times in the world that sometimes you see something that's wrong and you don't do anything about it. And I've watched this and I get irritated at night. And I will tell you right now, and I have mentioned this to Doc, when this is over, it doesn't matter if she is found guilty, not guilty, mistrial. We as citizens, if you believe in what you have seen, should basically let our justice system know that we're not going to put up for this.
Yep.
And this needs something that they understand that we as people in our own communities are not going to take this, and that we want to make sure that things are done in a proper way.
Yep.
Okay. And this has just been absolutely ridiculous. And thank God I've had plenty of these.
But it has been entertaining.
It has been. And I'm glad that I got to do it. And I'm glad that he and I were able to get up here and talk to you, because we're just two ordinary guys talking about ordinary topics. And we're going to continue to do this once a month. We're going to find a topic and we're going to come back in here. We're going to get back on our lovely whiteboard here and we're going to point this out.
Inverted whiteboard.
Well, I'd like to see how you're going to do that.
We'll figure it out.
But I would just say this to you. Thanks for watching. If you did watch it, I'm sorry that again, maybe you're watching this and it put you to sleep. And if that worked for you, I'm glad it did.
Cheers to Alan Jackson, Attorney Jackson. It was great to watch you, and we wish
Free Karen Reed.
free Karen Reed. Yeah, we hope the jury sees things the way we do. To all the defense team, you guys did an incredible job, and yep, there you go.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Now, how do we get that recording?
What do you mean?
I've never taken.
Take your time. In fact, you know what you might want to do? Here's the thing. Do it this way. Break it up.
Oh no, I'm
No,
going
no,
to break it up.
no, but what I mean is this. Break it up and say you're going to do 3 episodes of it.
Oh yeah, I can do that.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So that way you don't have to feel, you can make them down. Let's say, how long did we talk for? 2 hours?
hour and a half.
Okay. So you got 90 minutes.